an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Veronica Mars, Season 2, Episode 20. Look Who's Stalking. In this episode, Keith gets himself involved in something that, ooh boy, it's not your fault, Keith, but also, I wish you had not helped in the first place. And Veronica winds up having a bit of a moment, she thinks, with Logan. It doesn't go super well. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha. Many, many thanks to Rachel for commissioning this episode. Rachel is in the chat, so thank you for coming. So are Agnes and Melanie. Thank you to you both. I want to right off of the bat is so formal. Right off the bat, can you guys give me the mayor's name and his daughter's name? Because I always forget them. And Gia. She's Gia, right? I think I got that one. Who? Gia. I got that one. Woody Goodman. I always forget because Woody Goodman. I mean, come on. What a terrible name. Oh, I think I just try and block it out. Guys, I want to talk right off the top about Veronica and Logan. Can we do that? Is that cool? I, first of all, want to give enormous props to the actor playing Logan because he does an amazing job of being a sad drunk. That scene where he's talking to her and getting teary-eyed and trying to kiss her. Y'all, if you have been around somebody who's getting sad, sentimental drunk, you know, man, he did that really, really well. That shit was convincing. I really felt for both of them, to be honest, because I think that he was having one of those drunk wine moments. And I don't know, guys, I don't know whether or not I really think that this is how he feels or if it's a piece of how he feels that was simply made to look worse because of the fact that he was drunk, or I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know what to feel about it. But the main thing is, Agnes is saying that their ship name is Love because Logan and Veronica. So it's capital L, lowercase o, capital V, lowercase e. Wow. That's pretty funny. And I am super, super sympathetic to Veronica personally because I have been in this situation where someone that I cared about said a lot of the things that I kind of wanted to hear. And then I found out the next day that they literally did not remember any of it. And it was a bad relationship. It was relationship is kind, honestly, to call it that. But it was somebody that I didn't realize was as screwed up as they were. And he also had just a drinking problem. And he would text me or call and say exactly what I wanted to hear. And he was very good at not seeming drunk when he did this, and would say all of these things that I was pining over him and wanted it all to be true so bad. And then I would talk to him the next day, and and one could argue maybe he did remember and he was just pretending to not remember because he regretted it. that could also be true. But either way, it's really, really terrible because you make yourself vulnerable in that moment thinking it's mutual, only to realize that is not at all what happened. And the only reason, like, I was locked into the middle of this battle, not even realizing that when the fact that he was having whole conversations that he straight up didn't remember the next day, that on its own was a bad sign. Like, that on its own was evidence that he had a problem. But I wasn't seeing that. And I'm going to spoil you guys for Nashville 10 years ago at this point. But I was watching an episode of Nashville, and this dude says all of this stuff to this girl and proposes to her. And in the morning, she is elated and excited and talking about how they're engaged. And he is absolutely like not like looking at her like he does not know what she's talking about. And she realizes that he proposed while he was fucking wasted. And it's just one in a long line of moments of him disappointing her. And that moment watching it on screen and having it like be exactly what I was going through personally in that moment, guys, I was just so shook by it, you know. I just completely lost my mind, and it made me kind of step back, and I kind of had the same moment that Rebecca has in the last episode of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, where she's like realizing she needs to like break some bad patterns. That was my moment for me. It was watching that episode of Nashville and seeing this dude do the exact thing. And that I had just never really put it together before. So I feel like if I watched this episode of Veronica Mars back then, same thing would have happened because it is so exactly right. And Veronica, you know, I feel like she has really tried to shelve how she feels about Logan because he seems like he just can't help but be a piece of shit. And she just doesn't want to fucking deal with that. But when somebody comes to you and seems to be bearing their soul to you about how they really feel, you can't help when you have something inside you that feels the same way, but want to risk sort of making yourself open to that, you know? And she like went home and thought it all over before she came to talk to him. Like she really took this to heart in a very sincere way. And it's awful. It's awful to see her like just really be as sincere as she is and as genuinely vulnerable as she is. Granted, she's like still being like, who knows what's going to happen? We have to take it really slowly and just kind of like, you know, but nevertheless, she's putting it out there that she could potentially feel the same way. Essentially, what it comes down to is she humiliates herself. And I say humiliates herself, not because I really think that's what happened, because I think Logan does feel some of the things he does, some of the things that he says, but it doesn't matter if he feels it or not. That's like not even relevant at this point. The fact is, first of all, Kendall was fucking there, and the way that things are between the two of them right now, you can't ask for a worse person to be the witness to you like bearing your soul to somebody who doesn't know what the fuck is going on. Logan not even remembering, really, there's no way to like have a conversation with him and be like, well, maybe you really do feel this way. Here's all the things you said to me. Like, you don't want to feed back his lines to him in order to get him to tell you that he cares after all of this, you know? And I'm sure that Rebecca in the scene that, like, in her mind, none of it was true. As viewers, we can be like, I think some of that was true. But if you were Veronica, wouldn't you kind of like step back and be like, oh, wow, he was just drunk. He didn't mean any of that. Like, that's what happens when it's you. If you're on the outside of it, you can be like, that shit didn't come from nowhere. They had to mean some of it. But when you're the person who just put yourself out there and got slapped down, all you can think is, none of that was true at all. All you can think was like, even if it was, who cares? Like, it just comes down to that. So Veronica, I just really, God, I feel really bad for her. And honestly, guys, I don't really want the two of them together. Like, he's just too fucked up. You know, this is a dude that like needs sincere, heavy therapy for years before he is going to be ready to be an adult in a relationship. You know, and they're not adults, they're in high school, but you know what I'm saying. Nevertheless, like, I feel that Rebecca, I keep wanting to call her Rebecca because I just recorded on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I feel like Veronica is, I don't really want to say that she's like falling into the trap, because like it's a thing that a lot of women are like, oh, I'm going to get with a guy that I'm like, well, I can fix, you know, he's got some bad parts to his personality, but I know that I can like change that about him, or he can grow and be better. And I don't want to say that Veronica falls into that trap necessarily, because she's not old enough to really be there yet. But I do think that she, like, I don't know if she entirely appreciates what the trauma that Logan has been through will do to a person. You know, she has watched a lot of things from the outside to a point. And I mean, his mother killed herself. His father killed his girlfriend, like, all within a few months. And then he woke up like framed for murder and barely got away from that. Logan, and it's not his fault, but Logan has been through the worst shit imaginable, all piled on top of one another within this tiny span of time during a crucial developmental phase in his life. I cannot emphasize enough how terrible a recipe that is for growth. It's just, guys, no, she don't want any part of that. Like, as much as I feel that maybe Logan, I don't really know, guys, I'm flip-flopping all around. If Logan were willing to face up to that stuff and like really get help for it, but like, when you're kind of a minor celebrity, it really isn't, like, how do you go to a therapist and like trust that you can pour your guts out? I'm thinking about, you know, me wanting to have him get some like help, some genuine help. And what does that look like when you are somebody with this sort of notoriety in a neighborhood where everybody knows who you are? And like, I mean, obviously therapists have rules, you know, there's strict confidentiality. They can like lose their license and whatnot if they break that. But I'm talking less about the material, practical possibility of them leaking something to like a tabloid, and more the psychological barrier to being willing to talk to a stranger about what's going on with you. I am a regular, ordinary person, and I myself have trouble opening up to a stranger. It took me months of going through a lot of surface stuff with my therapist before I was finally ready to like talk about anything real. I held her at arm's length for a long time. Logan is so much more aware of how sharing shit can backfire horribly, that even if it's not a genuine concern practically, I don't see how you like mentally get past that block and are willing to trust a stranger and explain to them what it's like, what you've gone through, you know? All of this to say, I don't blame Logan for the state that he's in. I mean, like I said, he's a fucking kid, and he's just been through the worst possible shit. But I can have sympathy for him and also recognize that he ain't relationship material. You know, he's just not. And not for nothing, but Veronica is I don't want to say that people from totally different classes can't have a relationship, but a lot of Veronica's life has been like rooted in issues that stem from being of a lower class in a neighborhood with people who are wildly wealthy. And it's always been weird to me, her relationship with Duncan to begin with, because of the money. And, you know, she kind of got this relationship for a girl who likes to date rich guys because of Logan and Duncan. But long term, I really wonder what it would be like for her to be with somebody in a real way, not in a high school dating somebody who's got like money that may eventually be theirs through their parents, but is not really theirs yet. What happens when it's Logan, no parents around? He's like in charge of his own shit, living in a hotel still, by the way. And she's like, I just feel like there's some issues that could come up there that I'd be interested to see if the show would even deal with or not. Because I can't imagine, and maybe I can't imagine because in the era that we're living through now, the disparity is becoming so enormous between those who have and those who have not, that I can't wrap my brain around dating somebody who is a haver and not feeling resentment about it. And maybe it's just like the climate that they are in this show, that does not factor in the same way. But I kind of want it to. So, all right, I talked a lot about them. Let's get into the actual episode here. We open with Veronica finding out that she has chlamydia. Y'all, what the fuck is he doing? And by he, I mean Duncan. Did Duncan fuck Kendall after all? Because I know that there was that little bit where it looked like he did, and I was like, oh, it's made to look that way, but he didn't do it. Come on. That's gotta be it, right? Because he's like the one, that's the one other person that he slept with other than Meg. And Veronica is like, sure that Meg didn't have chlamydia. So she's discounting Meg entirely. Now, that might be a mistake. Meg might have had chlamydia. You don't know, you know? But I really feel like what the show is pointing towards now is the fact that, indeed, Duncan slept with Kendall. And if he did, I will never forgive him for that. I need y'all to know it right now. Not only is it just that he cheated on Veronica, because the two of them were like together still. And not only because Kendall is just awful, like just as a person, and he should have been able to tell that. But also, how stupid can you be? Kendall doesn't do anything without an agenda behind it. What do you think she's doing, dude? Like, I don't trust that Kendall just wanted to fuck Duncan. Like, she was trying to get his money, right? That was like our understanding at the time, I think, was that Kendall was realizing that the money from her husband had been frozen, and that she was like, you know, what she had available to her was quickly drying up. She didn't have a way to pay for the house and all of this stuff. So she was trying to lay into somebody who could fill that gap. Oh my God, I'm sorry. That sounds so filthy. But you know what I'm saying. And that's part of why she went for Logan pretty heavily. And then Logan sort of pushed her away. So she was like, who's somebody else with money who is in charge of themselves? And there's Duncan. And I mean, I just don't understand how Duncan could fall for it. Maybe he was in a place where he was like, yeah, sure, I'll fall for it. Who cares? I know what this is, that she just wants my money, and maybe I'll give her some. But like, he was still with Veronica. Am I wrong about that? Anyway, I'm disgusted with him. And I also like don't look forward to Veronica, who has really been having some like moments, R.E. Kendall, finding out that she probably got chlamydia from Kendall. Because, wow, that is just so insulting to have somebody who, like, you're already kind of after, who you know is doing all kinds of other shady shit, them getting to, like, affect your health in this indirect way. And it's indirect, but also Kendall got your boyfriend to fuck her. Like, there is all sorts of shit to be mad about. A ton. I can't imagine when she finds out, because I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. I'm assuming that it's Kendall, and I'm assuming Veronica finds out that it was Kendall. She's going to be mad. So we find out that there was, like, a bunch of drinking on the senior trip, and so prom has been canceled. And of course the rich kids are just like, lol, no, it's not. I don't, like, we have money, we have space, we will do it. It's fine. And honestly, I can see if I were in school, Anya says, I like that the gynecologist didn't shame/blame Veronica. Oh yeah, definitely. You know, Veronica says that we were always safe. And honestly, if she was always safe, I mean, shit can happen anyway, but I am curious about that. Like, what, you know? But I'm hopeful that nothing fucking happened while she was at that college campus, God knows. She didn't get her head shaved. So, like, but yeah, so this prom that the rich kids are going to throw, Alterna prom, they are really wanting to keep it still pretty exclusive, but Veronica winds up telling tons of people, so practically the whole school shows up anyway. Well, at least her class. And if I were in school and I found out that there was, like, an alternative prom happening, I was kind of a straight edge in school. I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. I would have been a little bit bummed, honestly, that what had been going to be like just a fun dancing event would turn into a clearly, like, debauched evening. But now, as a grown-up, I'm like, oh man, that'd be really fun. If you were going to have something that was, like, sanctioned and supposed to be really, like, stead and cautious, and then somebody else gets to host it and you kind of can do whatever you want because it's their house and they're providing drinks and providing whatever. That's fun. Excuse me. So as a grown-up, I love this idea. As a kid, if I had been more adventurous and into getting into trouble, I would have loved this idea. But the kid that I actually was would not have loved this idea. So this turns into, because poor fucking Mac, she is obligated to go to the prom with this dude, Butters, who helped her out. And she's really irritated with Veronica for, like, volunteering her up like this, which I don't blame her for. Honestly, I stand by what I said before, too, that Veronica letting them be in the same room together without warning Mac first, or asking Mac's permission as well. Being like, hey, Mac, he said he'd help, but only if you go to prom with him. Do you agree to that? Apparently, she did not do that. And that is on Veronica. I don't appreciate that at all. But I will say, the little conversation that Mac and Butters have, I really liked in a way, because he's, like, straight up honest and just says, look, I know that forcing somebody to go to prom with them isn't great. And I'm like, you're right. It's not. It's creepy. What are you doing? And then he's like, but the thing is, I was hoping that you would understand, because I know it's weird, but I'm weird and you're kind of weird. And I kind of hope that you just, like, get that and be cool with it. And Mac doesn't exactly fall into his arms and be like, oh, you understand. Like, it's not like that. But it is kind of a moment of her, like, looking at him and being like, okay, I guess I see what you mean. And I liked it. I just liked him owning the fact that he's a weirdo. Guys, honestly, it's one of the most perfect pieces of writing in this show, and I can't believe I almost missed it. Going up in the elevator. I think Madison says this is the longest elevator ride ever. And he says, you haven't been on the space elevator? Which leads to well, you know, they're building an elevator that goes all the way to space. They're constructing it now, which, like, no, they're not. But, y'all, that moment, that feels like the writers for the show literally were on an elevator with somebody who responded in this way. And they were like, that is such a fucking bizarre non sequitur answer. I gotta put that in the show somewhere. Like, we need a weirdo to say this because I just can't let that slide. That is so funny. That feels so real. There are just people out there whose brains go in a very different direction, you know, and you say longest elevator ride ever. And like somebody like me makes a joke about it, or like, what if we all got trapped in here? Or, oh, I'm so annoyed about it. But like somebody being like, well, technically it's not the longest elevator ride ever. If we're talking about actual longest elevator ride ever, we'd probably be talking about the space elevator. Like, what? Butters, you're such a fucking weirdo. And you know what? Good for you, buddy, for like knowing that and being like, yeah, there it is. I'm a weirdo. It's fine. Good for you. Life will go better for you if you know that and you can own that right out of the gate. So when we go to what's going on with Keith, guys, this is not great. He agrees to help out the mayor at his hotel room, and there is a girl who looks dead in the bed. Now, he tells Keith that she must have taken some pills. Oh, really? Must she? Huh. Now, look, I get the position that Keith is in. But, dude, there is no reason to believe this guy when he says that to you. Do not get involved. Don't do this. Don't do it, Keith. Don't do it. I was like chanting, don't do it. Don't, Keith, don't. The whole time. Because once he touches her and lifts her and everything, all kinds of DNA all over her. And if it indeed turns out that she was drugged and raped, she isn't going to know the difference. She won't know if it was Mayor Woody or if it was Keith. Whoever's DNA is on her is going to be the thing. And granted, if the mayor did rape her, then he will also have DNA on her. But it's still not going to be easy to discount that when you have the power of the mayorship behind you able to like squash, oh yeah, well my DNA was on her too, but you know, whatever, we'll talk about Keith instead. And you could just sort of make anything you want happen. I am so frustrated that Keith did not see this coming, because what happens is there are security cameras at this hotel and they saw Keith like carrying her to the car and putting her in the car and the mayor talking to him. And what could the mayor do but say Keith like got a girl too drunk? You know, Keith is the one. Now, obviously, I don't agree with the mayor blaming Keith when Keith, all he did was try and help. But also, if I'm the mayor and I'm like as unscrupulous as he obviously is, because he's out here cheating on his wife with a person on the committee for like that's what he says. At first he tries to say it's not what it looks like. But yeah, she's with the incorporation campaign. We had a few cocktails. Now look, is she with the incorporation campaign though? Is she, like, there's no reason to believe anything that he says here. None. Keith just takes it at face value because like Keith is a nice guy who wants to trust this person. And dude, there's no reason to trust him. Like, look, first of all, he's a politician, which like not for nothing. 2, you see that he is cheating on his wife at a creepy hotel. So obviously the scruples that we thought that he probably had are not there. Also, he wants Keith to like take care of the problem, which winds up being, I'm going to take her to a hospital, but I have no doubt that if he didn't have a Keith to call on, I mean, it turns out that this woman is missing later. They don't know where she is. I don't feel like the mayor would particularly mind her going missing if that were the option that was presented to him. I am just really frustrated that Keith doesn't seem to understand how much could potentially go wrong here. Like, and this is the thing, when you're dealing with a guy who is a good, decent person, and you try to explain to him the way that women are treated and how disposable we are seen to be, it's really difficult for men to wrap their minds around men who are good men, I'm saying. It is really difficult for them to believe what we as women have experienced our whole lives and what we have seen happen to other women our whole lives. Because to them, it's so unthinkable. It's kind of like if you are somebody who is unaware of racism, and we are all racist to a degree or another because of socialization. But if you are not somebody who was really brought up in a household that's racist, and you have had it drummed into you to be very careful about that, you fool yourself into thinking that everybody sort of was brought up the way that you were. And then you tend to not want to believe what that group of people, women or black people, whatever minority, you don't want to believe what they're telling you because it is so overwhelming and so terrible. And so it feels like insurmountable. And I really think that's a big part of the reason that men don't believe women when we tell these stories. It is because it is so much. It's a lot to like accept the world is like this. This is it, buddy. And you're contributing to that by having the attitude of not believing us. You have to be willing to accept that, yeah, it is overwhelming. Yes. It's more than you can handle. Yes, correct. Welcome to what it is like to be a minority or a marginalized party. Like, yeah, agreed. It sucks. It's terrible. It's way more than anybody should handle. And maybe sometimes I can't handle it. And you know what? That's fair. But some people don't even want to like take that step. And I feel like in this moment, Keith is falling into that good guy brain where he does not see the fucking red flags here for what they are, because to him, that's just not even like, he can't even think that's what's happened here. The idea that the mayor maybe drugged and raped this woman is maybe lying about who she is and where he met her. And then she turns up missing later. Like, all of this to me is so immediately where my mind goes. Do not believe what the mayor is telling you happened. We had a few cocktails. She's part of this committee that I like, blah, 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 blah. Maybe it's true. I don't know, but that is not what I hear. When I look at this picture, that's not what I see. And Keith, the fact that he is so like blind after everything that, like, all the investigations he's done, all of the shit that he has uncovered, I want him to understand better what women go through and how we're treated. And it seems like he hasn't gotten there. And I need him to be like a little bit more suspicious. I need him to be less willing to help simply because in the moment it's the most expedient thing to do. And when he gets taken advantage of and it begins to be circulated that he was the one, I like, of course, Keith, what are you thinking? You know, like, oh, I got so irritated with him. Anya says he should have called Olivia Pope. Yeah, right? Sincerely. So, yeah, this whole thing is just a disaster. And he, like, Kendall knows that he is the one who took her hard drive. So she comes at him and tells him that if he just gives it back, she won't press charges. And she even gives him basically like a self-addressed stamped envelope in order to mail it back so that there won't even be a paper trail. So that essentially she's trying to prove to him, she means it when she says that she's not going to press charges. She won't turn around and show the cops this envelope and, be like, oh, I have it back and I'm going to press charges. Ha ha, sucker. He seems to be really positive that he's not going to hand it back over. But honestly, if you just make a copy of it, there's really no reason not to. Like, just go ahead. Just give it to her. What's the difference? If you've made a copy, like, she has to know that you've made a copy also. And I'm really, really interested in what is on there that she needs back, because she has to know that the information, like, you can kiss the sanctity of it goodbye. But, whatever. She just wants it back, so it's fine. All right. I feel like I covered a lot of, like, little things. Then there's the main thing with Gia. She is being stalked by somebody. And it turns out to be 2 different people. So initially, the first person that she sees, like, following her around in a car, which, I mean, it's totally nondescript. That's what's so unique about it. Oh my God, Gia. You're kind of precious. It turns out that her father has assigned a security detail to her. And one of the guys who has been following her around is Veronica's ex-boyfriend, Leo, whom I know that I said in the first season when he was around, like, first of all, she's way too young for you, dude. You should not be dating her. But also, I didn't really like him. Like, his vibe was really weird and off to me. I feel like in this episode, that is significantly toned down. And I liked him a lot better this time around. I felt like he was just trying so hard to turn on the charm in this way that felt extremely, like, oily and, like, just kind of sleazy to me. And he is acting much more like a fucking normal person this time. So I was kind of bummed because, obviously whatever is between him and Veronica is definitely over. And I'm like, he's just kind of turning into a person that I would be interested to see her dating. Except she's still, like, just don't date high school students, people who are out there with gainful employment. If you're out there really working full time, you should not be dating high school students. Okay. Can we just, like, all get on the same page with that? I think that's fine. Just a general rule. But yeah, it turns out that, like, he isn't actually the problem here, because Gia thinks that, like, oh, okay, I told my dad to get rid of the private security and that it was creeping me out. He agreed to get rid of them, but then I came home and here was this video. And it's a video of her at her little brother's soccer game, and she's on the sidelines just cheering him on and smiling, and this person has, like, zoomed in on her and done a really, like, head to toe scan of her in this really creepy, leering sort of way. And Veronica, like, this is not security detail type stuff. This is something else. And on that video, they see another woman who is filming the game facing whomever this is. So they managed to track that lady down and get her copy of the game, and they watch it and see that there is somebody in a Neptune High letter jacket who just seems to sort of vanish after a moment, and a red truck in the background also vanishes. So Veronica puts it together that this person probably goes to Neptune High and has a red truck. And she is looking up and down the parking lot and can't find anything. Like, it's not coming together, and she doesn't really understand it. Now, I gotta say that when she is walking out of school, because, like, Gia at one point gets really mad at her on behalf of her father, because she feels like, obviously it's your dad who got that woman drunk. Now he's trying to blame it on my dad and say that my dad cheated on my mom. And I think it comes out, does it eventually come out that this woman was a sex worker and not on the committee? Correct me if I'm wrong. Or are they just saying that in Keith's case? Is that the story they're going with just because it's Keith? I don't know. I don't remember exactly. But whatever the case, Gia is really, really mad and doesn't want to help Veronica at all anymore, and doesn't really care about the stalker thing anymore either. Like, she's not taking it that seriously. So Veronica's, when she's leaving school after Gia refuses to talk to her, she does like a school newspaper thing, and she walks out late and she says goodbye to the janitor. And there's something so purposeful about her saying goodbye to him. I think his name is Lucky, right? That my antenna immediately went up, and I was like, oh, this guy's going to be a stalker, isn't it? And sure enough, that is what happens. But I'm going to back up a little bit before we get to that and talk about the composite sketch of this guy that her dad is asking her to send out to people. I'm just going to say it, guys. Honestly, I understand why the script needed it to happen this way, but it is the most contrived thing. Veronica, like, her dad's like, send it to all the people on our contact list. All of them should be faxed to everybody. Anybody who works in the kind of business where they need like composite sketches sent to them because they're investigating stuff should have a fax machine. The fact that she brings them to study hall and is stuffing envelopes with composite drawings of this guy in study hall because we need Logan to see this guy's face and mention who he is hilarious. Like, that really doesn't work. Let's be honest about this whole thing. It's just they need Logan to see it. And Logan tells her that he looks like the guy my dad shared a cell with. And this, obviously means something to her. So I don't know what to make of this. Like, this dude obviously has to be working for Logan's dad, but I just, like, there are so many pieces moving around that I'm having a little trouble keeping track of here. So I'm just really interested in whether Veronica is able to, like, piece this all together, and keep her, because it feels like she is a bit of a target, and I just don't want her locked in a fridge and have the fridge set on fire again. Can we just avoid that? That's all I ask. So Veronica realizes that the truck is Lucky's. She sees it, and realizes that this is the stalker. And at great risk to herself, she decides to go back into school to make sure that Gia is okay. But she calls her dad first. And this dude winds up, like, coming at them and scaring them with this knife that he is pretending to just be showing off. And he says that he got it off of an Iraqi corpse. He's talking about the wars that he has been in, the injuries that he has sustained, all of this stuff that is really, like, alarming, sad. Like, this dude needs to be in therapy also. Everybody on the show needs to be in therapy. And it's a shame, in a way, that he's, like, that we're doing the, like, fucked up vet as a threat here. But I do kind of like that it's undermined by it seeming later as if he wasn't intending to actually do any harm. He just wanted to scare Woody because Woody is up to something. And he keeps saying people don't know what he is. And I am dying to know, because I have so many weird thoughts going around in my head. And the main one that I keep coming up with is, like, trafficker. Like, because the whole Epstein thing just has me so hyper aware of that right now. And the way that, like, he was with Logan and, like, touching him. And the fact that there was, like, a kid on the bus who's in Veronica's, like, weird dream that seemed to be, like, pointing at him. Like, there was some sort of involvement there. there is just something that makes me feel like this dude is either a rapist or he's involved in trafficking, which is also being a rapist. Like, I don't know how organized it is what I mean. Like, is it something that he is doing for profit? Is it something that he just, like, takes advantage of people, like, for himself, and it's just him involved? And why, if that were all it was, would Lucky know anything about it? Because, like, would he have taken advantage of Lucky? I don't know. When would he have even had an opportunity to do that, you know? But whatever it is that, like, that he has done, Lucky feels it keenly enough that he is willing to go break into that dude's house and film down the hallway while they're eating dinner. Like, this is a serious risk to take, and I really can't imagine what would make Lucky so particularly, like, aware of this guy. And it also makes me wonder if Lucky isn't the one who's, like, responsible for blowing up the bus, because just like, and it's not even that I feel like he doesn't have empathy, but it's the connection with the bombs that he was talking about, and the fact that Gia was supposed to be on the bus, and how he says, he keeps on saying, like, he deserves it. I could see Lucky being detached enough from reality to be willing to take out a bunch of other people, because to a degree, I could understand the trauma of being at war, making it so that, like, casualties who are not directly involved is just part of the thing. It's just part of what happens, and you just grow to accept that and know that that's part of it. And it's not something that necessarily keeps you from achieving your aim in the end. But it could also be that the bomb is being, like, used as a decoy to get us to think that Lucky was involved with that. All I can think of, though, is Lucky, like, coming up and talking really firmly when we have that memory of Veronica and Logan making out in his car, and Lucky and Dick, and was Beaver there also? But they come up and, like, are trying to get him to come with them because it's time to do something. And Lucky gets all irritated. That's the same guy, right? That's still Lucky. But he seems to get really irritated that Logan doesn't want to immediately drop everything and come with them. Like, that's all I could think. But I don't know. It could also be that when they set the pool on fire, I guess, the public pool, that could be that. And why would that affect the mayor? Why, like, I don't know. Guys, there's so much swirling around in my brain. And yeah, I thought that they did the creepiness of the scene of Rebecca and Gia in that room with him really, really well. And just making it so, like, you know, he's not doing anything, like, he's not actually attacking them, but the threat is there. And it's so, like, you're in such a vulnerable position. And eventually Keith comes, like, barreling in and tackles Lucky, and he winds up, like, fucking Sheriff Lamb comes in and is like, Keith, what are you doing? You're not a cop. You called us. You don't tackle him. What are you doing? And Keith winds up handcuffing himself to Lucky and then throwing the keys down the drain so that he is forced to be with Lucky in the jail cell so that he has a chance to question him. And honestly, it's pretty, like, funny. It's one of those things where Lamb is just bad at his job. So on the one hand, I'm not mad at Keith because I want him on the case. On the other hand, though, if I'm seeing this from the outside, I am definitely going to be like, Keith, you're not a cop anymore, buddy. If you want to be a cop, then be a cop. But you, like, you know, you decided to, like, leave this behind, and I just want him to be a cop again. I just want him to be sheriff again. Is that so much to ask? Lamb is just so bad at his job. And he gets so close to getting Lucky to tell him what's going on. And when is Lamb going to learn that Keith is not like somebody to be sort of just set aside? Like, the answer to that is never, because it's not about that. The thing about Lamb is his ego is the thing. He doesn't care about solving cases. He cares about being seen solving cases. He cares about getting the credit for solving cases. So whether or not Keith is right and good at his job is irrelevant, because he would then have to defer to Keith's judgment, and he is unwilling to do that. So it is really almost going to be worse if it turns out that Keith is right, because that will make Lamb resent him even more. So I don't know. There's no way to win on this one. But man, is it annoying when Lucky leans in and starts to say something to Keith, and then you just hear the door rattle and they immediately pull apart because they're being interrupted, and you're just like, oh, come on. So there's the whole thing with Jackie and her dad, and she has been visiting him in the hospital. He's like finally woke up, and they had been talking about like, or her father had been saying to Keith, because Keith goes in to talk to him and it's just like, dude, what were you doing breaking into that house? And he says, first of all, I didn't break into their house. It was their garage, which was unlocked. I'm like, dude, not exactly the thing that you want to be focusing on, but sure. And he says, and the woman that I was seeing said that she was like writing this tell-all book, and I was really worried that it was going to get out to the press, because if people found out that I had been throwing games, that's the end of my career. That's it. And Keith is like, I mean, okay, sure, but still breaking into her house, not like an awesome call. And Jackie, who's been visiting him and is really glad that he's been coming back around, she's telling him all about Wallace, all about the prom, the dress that she got, the fact that they're going to like do a limo anyway, even though it's finally going to be like at this hotel. It's actually really sweet to see her and her dad like kind of connecting in a way that they haven't before. But then at the end, we see Keith like finding in the San Diego Dispatch, there's like a front page article, Cook Through Championship Game. Woman killed in bus crash, accused Hall of Fame hopeful of fixing ALCS. And we see him seeing that, and then we see Jackie reading it and realizing. And I am unclear. Did Jackie know this about her father already? Was she aware that this was what was going on? And if she was, did she, like, what I'm saying is, if she had an inkling this was going on, did she believe it? Because she could react the way that Gia does and just be like, no, somebody's like trying to make my dad the patsy. He would never do that. Or was she like, oh, fuck, Dad. Yeah, I bet he is doing that. We've been struggling with money. I could see him like, falling prey to something like this. And I'm just really curious whether or not this news comes as a total shock, or if this is something that she's been dreading herself, if she knew and was trying to keep this from getting out also, or hoping that it wasn't going to. When I say trying to keep this from getting out, it makes it sound like I'm implying she blew up the bus, which I do not think happened. But you know what I mean? Like, was she concerned about this maybe eventually getting out? And now she sees this and she's like, oh, cool, it's out. Great. Or is she reading this going, are we serious? Oh my God. Because she goes in, like, we see them telling her that she can go in and see her dad now. And she folds up the newspaper, tosses it in the trash, and then puts on a big fake smile and doesn't talk to him about any of it. So I don't know whether or not she's just covering her shock, or if she's protecting her dad because she like doesn't even believe that it's true, and she doesn't want to like make it sound like she's accusing him or that she would ever believe such a thing. So she's just not wanting to talk to him about it at all. But I feel like if it had been sincere shock, if she had no idea I don't know that she wouldn't have gone in there and been like, Dad, did you see this? Is this for real? Did you do this? Because I feel like old Jackie would have done that, but new Jackie seems to value the relationship that she's developed with her dad so much that she might not be willing to like put it on at risk, you know? So I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place on that one. I just really I want to know where she was throughout and how much she actually knew. But yeah, so I'm trying to see what was something that I have missed, guys, because I feel in my guts like I missed something that I was meant to talk about this time around. There's no Weevil this episode either. And let's see, I said there was no Weevil. Who was the other person that was kind of missing from this that I was surprised about? Oh, I forgot to mention that like Jackie and Wallace, I think, are having sex on prom night. So that was a weird thing, like that it was very focused on that, and I didn't really need to know about it. We could have just heard about it later. I felt really weird about it. These like side characters having their like, you know, first time be such a focal point, but it's fine. Oh, Jackie says, so sorry guys. Anya's asked, what do you think about Jackie saying, I learned the birds and the bees the hard way? Yeah, I feel like it has to be that there was some sort of abuse happening, right? That maybe there was somebody that she got involved with when she was too young. And I don't know if it was like a straight up abuse or like, you know, somebody who was an authority figure, or if it was something that like, you know, she got involved with somebody voluntarily and like maybe got knocked up right away, like as a teenager because she wasn't careful. That could also be construed as learning the hard way. But thank you for bringing that up, Anya, because I forgot that she says that. Her dad is like being a little bit weird about her involvement with Wallace. And she has to be like, you know, actually, I really like him and he is aware that I'm leaving. And it's kind of nice that we are being as honest and open with one another about the reality of what we can expect from this relationship. So, yeah, I don't know, but I'm interested if that comes up again, because that feels like kind of a focal point of this season is sexual assault. It keeps coming up. You know, there was that episode on the college campus where the person like winds up getting away with it. We don't find out who did it in the end. And then this weirdness with Mayor Woody, and then her mentioning that. And then we have like the stalker who's like, you know, coming at, and it turns out to not be what it seems with Gia and the stalker, but it's still, that vibe is definitely there. And then we have the whole thing with like, what's his face, Lamb, who is sleeping with Madison, a student. You know, technically she's 18. It just feels like there's a lot going on this season regarding the weirdness of power structures and abuse of power and sexual assault and like inappropriate sexual relationships. And then there's I'd almost forgotten to mention, Agnes brings it up exactly. That was right where I was going, Agnes, because I was like, I can't believe I almost forgot to say this. Lucky winds up getting bailed out of jail by Meg's dad, which her dad is the one that was locking his younger daughter in the fucking closet and making her write lines, and was obviously like pretty fucking psycho. And it feels like there is, like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if somebody like that were involved with a sex trafficking thing or something like, because that happens like constantly. People who have these like weird hang-ups about morality will also be the ones who are doing some of the most depraved, horrific shit you ever heard of. And it turns out that they're just projecting their own like knowledge and guilt their conscience onto other people. But I don't know why he would like spring Lucky unless, because Lucky knows what the mayor did apparently. And he doesn't say anything about Meg's dad. So could Meg's father be aware of he might not actually be involved in what the mayor's doing. He just might be aware of what the mayor's doing and need Lucky for some reason. Or what if Lucky just turns up missing? That could also happen, because this fucking woman that was in Mayor Woody's bed fucking vanishes as well. Which is very alarming. I do not care for that at all. And I just don't know what kind of connection she could have to the whole thing. I really don't. Yeah. So there's so much still happening, guys. There's only 2 episodes left this season. And I just don't know how we're wrapping up on all this. I just don't know how it will happen. But I'm very excited about it. So I think the next episode, and let me just double check on this, is going to be a voyeur, which means that I will be watching it live while hanging out with you guys on the Facebook page, the Facebook Live. And I'm not sure if both the next ones are or if it's just that one. So we're in season 2. This was episode 20. So yeah, 21 is a voyeur and 22 also is a voyeur. Ooh, okay. 21, the voyeur episode is happening. Oh, that's tomorrow. Sweet. The 23rd. Yeah. So that's Saturday, the 23rd. And then the next one, the voyeur, will be on January 3rd. Oh, such a long wait, you guys. That's fucking terrible. Oh, no, I'm not mad at y'all. I know that this just happens because of the way the scheduling works out. But damn, that is a long time between the penultimate episode and then the finale episode. Fuck. Oh, that's gonna destroy me. Fuck. Oh well. What are you gonna do? Jesus. Rachel says it's your own fault for being so popular, right? Yeah. Damn. But I am excited to watch the next, because anytime that you guys pick a voyeur, it either means that some shit is really going to go down, or it's just a weird episode and you kind of want to see how I react to it. So I am very excited to find out what made you all want this to be a voyeur episode. Anya said, I waited for the end to tell you. I don't know. Oh, are you waiting till the end to tell me that it's tomorrow? Anya says, I feel ashamed of eating pasta with non-heated bolognese sauce. That's an inside joke for those of you who haven't listened to the Twilight episodes, which are for patrons. But guys, don't just dump cold sauce on hot pasta. Don't do it. What are you doing? Anya, you deserve better. You deserve better than that, ma'am. All right, guys. I love you all. I will see you tomorrow with the voyeur. So come and hang out with me. I'll have a latte probably, and we'll get cozy, and we'll watch this, and it'll be great. All right. Bye, guys.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.